Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. My name is Sarah, and today my co-host Carrie, Bennett, and I are going to be making these complex topics of quantum biology and circadian biology understandable to the everyday person. Thank you so much for tuning in. We ask that if you are listening on audio only, that you take a moment to leave us up to a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a like, leave us a comment. It will help to get the show out to more people. And before we jump into today's topic, just a quick reminder to head down to the show notes and check out my free resources as well as Carrie's free resources. We also do have courses on a variety of topics. If you are hoping to dive deeper, Carrie and I both have practitioner courses available as well for anyone who wants to begin to bring these topics to their clients and help them to implement these strategies into their daily lives. So check those out. We also have a co-taught course called Quantum Fertility that is available that allows people and practitioners to work on their fertility using these principles of quantum biology and circadian biology. Again, thank you so much for listening or watching today's show, whichever one you are doing. And let's go ahead and jump into it now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. As you can see, we've got Dr. Sara Pugh here again. And what are we going to talk about, Carrie?
Well, I think we kind of decided to pick a couple topics, just kind of almost rapid fire, if you will, and talk about whether there's legit, some legit usage for certain things or things to be concerned with or be aware of versus BS. Don't spend any time thinking about it. Just kind of move on. So where should we start with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking about in my community, the questions that come up like a lot that is just, and I get asked in my DMs a lot. And the first one is light bulbs. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time stressing out about light bulbs. So maybe we could talk about that just a little bit.
I mean, obviously light bulbs are needed, right? But when in doubt, I try to not use light bulbs at all.
Yeah, I don't even have any electricity turned on in my upstairs, and none of my lighting circuits are on. But before that, I had incandescents because we can still buy them in the UK.
We can still get incandescents here too. Yeah. I think, except in California, you can't.
Maybe, yeah. Edison style incandescents. I still just ordered a whole bunch. So the more and more you have to go towards the decorative incandescent bulbs, but. Mm-hmm. That's my best bet because it truly does mimic more of a sunset or candlelight, if you will, in terms of its spectral blend. And there's low blue light LEDs as well. So I feel like people stress too much about that as well. It's like, do you like candlelight and campfire? And is that conducive to your household space? Great. Do you resonate with incandescent bulbs? I personally do because the warmth, the infrared, I think matters for me and just how my body senses light. Or, do you want to buy a good quality, like a low flicker LED that doesn't contain blue light? The whole thing is what blue light, really bottom line, what blue light and brightness are you being exposed to after sunset? And those things, if you can mitigate them either by not using light at all or by, choosing an appropriate light bulb for your house, then that's all that matters.
Also, the bulb light it just splats light out, so it's kind of not direct in your face. The thing I find, it's a TV or a phone is much worse. So
totally,
because I've loads of times not been able to find my blue blockers and had to turn lights on all the time, and it's never bothered me. It guaranteed if I watch TV, which I don't. I listened to it for a little bit when I was doing the hydrogen yesterday, and it's
I was watching last night. Did it
a little bit because it's like I know it's like people have a guilty pleasure, but I'm just and then fiddling with my phone is much worse than me switching a light on because I can't find. I don't know, something I need to sleep with, or I I don't want to get in my bed and my blue blockers are in it, and my crush. Well, there's all sorts of things that people do, but I think with the light bulbs, it's just, again, it's not a difficult thing to solve. And even if you don't want to change them and somebody's asked you to change them all, it's like, it takes 10 minutes. So I think if you've got like really obnoxious sort of lighting, say in like a hairdresser salon or the mall, that's an example. And some people's homes are like that. That's when you do need to do something about it.
Yeah. And you just don't turn the overhead lights on. I think lamps are always the best thing, or lamps. And like, we don't turn on overhead lights at home. Like, we have tons of windows here. And so we just have natural light. I try to crack a window, or one of us will like leave a door open. We've got screens so that bugs and things don't come in because we are in the South and the bugs are really big here. But yeah, we really don't spend a lot of time on light bulbs. I've got Edison style incandescents in all of the light fixtures. If there's a thing we need to flip on an overhead light because somebody spilled something and we need to like see to clean it up. But like, I just don't want people stressing out about the light bulb thing. Cause I don't know if you get that in your community a lot, Carrie, or if you get it in your community, but
sort of, I think it's just one of these things that you just get used to. It's just a transition. If you're used to lots of bright artificial light lighting your house, it'll feel weird and a bit like a zombie apocalypse movie for
my husband hated it.
Yeah, but
he used to freak out a few years ago. He'd be like, and I don't know what color my socks are. And again, I came to work and I had 2 different colored socks on because of your stupid light bulbs. And like now he doesn't even
no big deal.
He just
the other thing is
he doesn't care.
I've nearly done a few backward somersaults stepping on the squiggles with blue
Alexis.
the lights off, or kids' toys and stuff, but you kind of just learn after a while.
Stepping on that Lego with bare feet.
That's ouch.
But yeah, same thing, right? And here's the deal: if you're in an environment where you have zero control over your lighting, get a pair of orange tone blue blockers, and if you need a hat, wear a hat to mitigate the overhead stuff, and you're good, right?
The primary thing that I think is what comes in through the retina, right? Because that's what's attached to the brain. We do have melanopsin receptors on the skin, so they can sense light, but the primary is really what comes in directly through your eye. So like you said, if you're under a bunch of overheads, a hat can be really helpful, but just get a pair of blue blockers if your family is not going to be cooperative and have a bunch of stuff on and you want to protect your circadian rhythms, and that can really go a long way.
Yeah, definitely, because there's other pathways, those SAD lights. It's like it's separate to melanopsin. It's related to cortisol in a good way. So there's definitely other things it's the brightness, not just
the brightness too. That's why TV can be tricky.
And that's why the iPhone.
Which I was up a bunch last night. I had to watch The Jinx because it's the season 2. And
what's that? I've never even heard of this.
It's a movie about the kinks. It's like I sort of listened a little bit, but it's like I know quite a lot about American culture, but I've never heard about it.
It's Robert Durst, and he basically like got away with like murder 3 times, and because he was so wealthy, he got out of it. And they made a HBO series about it about like 10 years ago or so. And because of his like blabbing in the first time when they did the series, they actually created a criminal case because of this HBO documentary.
Wow.
He was basically like telling on himself. And so now it's like part 2 where they're kind of documenting the trial. And it's just all kinds of bizarre and wacky. So
because the last time we watched a series, it was Dope Sick.
And we watched
Sarah
that.
And Matt watched it especially for me. But I think Dope Sick, if you've never seen it, is it's such a good representation of why pharmaceuticals and supplements are so messed up.
Listen, the last thing that I watched as a show like that was called My Octopus Friend.
What?
It was about this like marine biologist who moved to a specific coastal kelp bed to dive every day to interact with the marine life there, specifically an octopus. And he literally was with an octopus from like for an entire lifespan, including like the octopus eventually developed a relationship with him where it would come right up to him and like he could hold it if he wanted to. Like it, I don't know. Like I was crying at the end. It was that's also,
isn't the cephalopod brain a human brain but version 1? When they talk about on the Huberman Cruise podcast about the cephalopods and octopus, you can actually see the light show happening in squid and octopus, and they also have melanin in their ink. So, and not that we're going to talk about eating the octopus that's your friend, but they're more sentient than people think.
Don't eat my friend. You can have the ink if you want. Yeah, no, they're way more sentient, and I think they're actually way more intelligent than we actually give them credit for. All octopus, dolphins, whales. I think it's an entirely, we don't give them enough credit at all. So
when I did my interview with Professor Michael Crawford, he was saying about how a dolphin, if you look at all the anatomy of a human arm and dolphin fins, you can see quite clearly a dolphin is a person that just got out of the water. And it's really interesting, the sort of, and then I think when we're talking about dolphins and communication, I think Matt and that Sarah's husband and I were talking because what was it? No, Nico. I was also talking to Nico from the Cosmic Tower about dolphins, and they do actually have a language and communicate. And I think they're much less understood than we think.
Well, have you seen how they're like their language? Yeah,
same with whales too.
Well, and it creates cymatic patterns, right? Literally of what they're essentially thinking about. It's almost like telepathy via water and vibration, right? It's pretty impressive.
Nico said it was more than that their actual voices help to shape sort of parts of reality. About, in the beginning there was the word, and some people say Om started the universe. That the dolphin talking or speech has some kind of influence on the rest of the planet. And he was talking about he wants to take a tower to, I can't remember where, but where there's loads and loads of dolphins, because there's some interaction with the cosmic tower and the dolphins, and together they can do more than just the tower or the dolphins alone.
Well, yeah, I believe it. If you going back to like that, the stories of creation, you actually see in certain parts of like South America. I believe Lake Titicaca is one of the areas where they show that like it's like the symbol of creation is literally, it looks like this upright dolphin, if you will. So like a dolphin that is based, right? Or if you think of the symbols of Christ in terms of the fish, right? There's way more to this that I think than we actually realize in terms of that interaction there.
But also with Christianity, isn't it because it's the era of Pisces, and now we're in the age of Pisces, and now we're in the age of Aquarius. So it's sort of the fish or the water symbol, and Christianity is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that's definitely part of it. I also find that I just feel like the water aspect of kind of how humans are evolving in kind of like this in the water signs, if you will. I don't think it's unusual that we're really, obviously exiting the dark ages and getting into this very much more enlightened, interconnected. I'm feeling like more spiritual connection. And I think it really truly has to do with what's happening with the water, including the dolphins with the water, how our thoughts are influencing all of the waters on the planet. I mean, Masaru Emoto showed that you could literally pray over a polluted lake or a polluted river, right? And completely transform the structure of the water through prayer. So I think we really are,
it's interesting.
The water and the vibration really plays a key role.
Oh yeah, that's back to the BS or non-BS. People get in our questions, they get really fixated on water. Yeah. So this is the okra or the okra water, as you'd say in the US, and people get really like concerned. Oh no, how do I make it, and how long do I leave it outside?
Oh yeah, how long does it take to be in sunlight and structure?
And if you make any kind of structured water video online and on TikTok or something, you'll just get loads of people saying you're a quack and a charlatan and this is bollocks and stuff like that. Whereas what I try to say to people is it's not a magic thing you're doing structuring water. You're just restoring it to how it would be in nature, because before in nature we didn't have water sanitation plants and metal pipes to crash the water around. So when it comes out of the tap, it's only 40% coherent or alive. And then when we do all of these different structuring techniques, which even just, putting some minerals in and putting it outside will do the trick. You don't need to have okra and all this. You're just restoring it back to its natural living form. And sure, you can have a vortexing machine. So, there was somebody asking a question about
analemma wands, right?
Analemma wands.
Mine broke again.
Oh yeah, it did. But kind of this time it broke it
on its own, because Alexis broke it last time. She put it inside of a toy and I found it shattered. But this time I just opened it and it is broken.
But that's like just one of many weird things as we go.
There's all kinds of weird.
There was one day all the spoons disappeared. I was including the plastic spoons down in the basement. Then in this room with the lights, because I sleep.
All these lights just keep turning themselves on.
And one night there was a
poltergeist.
They did like a disco dance. But then there's something called sliders, people who can influence electricity with the mind. And it's not nonsense at all, because my friend Sarah Hodgson's, she's very electrosensitive. And for people who are listening, the Sarah that Jack Cruz always talks about from the UK, her and some doctors are actually doing some studies on sliders, because cardiologists swear blind that people that always make the pacemakers break. And then
interesting.
And then the people with epilepsy are notorious for being able to interfere with the electrics. So definitely me or Alexis is like causing the disco dance.
There's something going on.
Maybe both of you together, right?
Together, the combination. Yeah. I'm like, why are objects literally disappearing and then reappearing? I mean, I'm not even joking. Like, it happens days. Well, we have this time period called the Bermuda Triangle. And that's when Alexis gets home from school and James is up from his nap, and they coincide. And it's literally like objects disappear Like
the Camry, we lost the car key.
The car key gets lost, and all kinds of stuff just happens, and you're
crazy light flickers.
Yeah, but also you kind of get amnesia that
you do. And the end of it, you're like, what just happened?
But also then I made another flood in Sarah's house because first of all, when I first came, Alexis flooded the bathroom above, and it all poured down into my suitcase, and it soaked everything. So I put it outside and it dried and it got rained on and soaked again. But this time water started to come through and I knew instinctively I've done something, but I can't remember what I wear or what have I left on. I knew I got interrupted. Me and Matt got interrupted in doing something. And so basically it was the distiller, so I'd forgotten to put the glass back on because Alexis likes to flip.
Both of the kids like to take the big glass jar out from the distiller and like try to drink from it, or
or Alexis likes to flick switches.
She likes to turn.
So basically, so it was all peed through the ceiling, but it was only a minor flood. So I think that probably leads us on into water distillers and also air doctors and like because it's definitely, there's no mold here considering the amount of floods that we have. And definitely last time I was here, I was partly responsible for a flood because Alexis tricked me by, telling me she needed the bathroom when she didn't. And she wanted to play with the faucet.
We have to turn the water faucet off in the bathroom, like, because we have 4 bathrooms. So one of the bathrooms, you can't wash your hands. You got to go in the kitchen to do it. And I'm very sorry, it's not sanitary, but it just is what it is because she'll she'll flip this thing to the side and then turn the faucet on and then run out of the room. And like, it floods the bathroom so quickly. So that,
that happened last time. And then, because it was like, I didn't know her well enough to take her to the bathroom. So as soon as I was allowed to, she's like,
Alexis likes to mess with Sarah.
Oh, massively.
We went swimming and Alexis pretended she was drowning.
Try and make
she's known how to swim since she was 18 months. I taught her how to swim. She's a great swimmer, but she was pretending to drown so that Sarah would jump in the pool.
But the thing is, there was lots of reasons I wasn't swimming that day, from monthliness and shaving and stuff like that. So I'm saving my pubic hair for my HTMA analysis. Because apparently you can get the minerals done.
That's not I've had actually people in my group do that just to I don't know where this conversation's going, but if you want to do an HTMA, don't use your pubic hair because it's not accurate according to the people in my group who've done this because they already have thin hair, so they don't want to clip their hair.
Also also if someone was bald, how would they do a HTMA? So we're just talking about a mineral test. We're going to have to loop back to it. We've added 4 topics now that people come up all the time. We're going to have to loop back again to say which is.
It's going to talk about the whole water structuring thing.
The water distillers though, right?
Yeah, water distillers.
Yeah, I think we've started on water structuring, then we need to go to distillers and RO, then we need to go to wet damp houses and mold, and really, is that a problem? And then we can
I also have 2 Santa Fe dehumidifiers that I installed for the whole home just because of my daughter with the flood risk. So I'm like, we're just going to take care of this and air doctors. And
so water distillers, I would say, are, they do the trick, right? You could literally, you don't need a distiller. I've literally distilled water with an upside down bowl, like boiling a pot of water, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have a bowl with ice, and then you have an upside down lid that essentially catches the condensation, drips it back into another collection bowl. You could literally, you can distill things without the water distiller. But the whole point is when you vaporize something, when you turn it to water vapor, you leave behind any of the stuff that was in the water. And then when it recondenses, it's pure, right? Water distilling is really a pure version of water.
Yeah. Yeah. And I prefer it much over a reverse osmosis. I had an AquaTrue and I got the Spring Aqua for just drinking water, but with the Holy Hydrogen now I wanted to have something to purify the water because I was using the Spring Aqua and it was gumming up the machine. You don't want to do that. So the distiller I love, and it's actually, I feel like it's better than RO, it's cleaner than RO, and you only have one little carbon filter and it's $25 and you change it every 3 months versus RO. You got to change the filters and it costs you $500 whenever,
And you could, and even I know there's the My Pure Water distiller
that's the one I have,
$700, but I think a tabletop distiller for a beginner is a good place to start. But then if you do want to get the most out of the hydrogen machine, it is better to get the proper distiller, but you could get away with an ordinary distiller for a little bit. But if you don't plan to make hydrogen water, just an ordinary tabletop distiller is a brilliant start.
Yeah. And you just want to add minerals back into it. You don't want to drink it plain, because that is
same
with RO.
Yeah.
But a lot of practitioners hate when we say that you have to add minerals back in.
They do. They get mad.
Well, I mean, technically it's water, right? It's very much pure water. But what I find as from a clinician standpoint is that it's not well absorbed. RO and distilled water, it could transiently be used for like even a flushing effect. Like if you were really looking to push detoxification and stuff, you can totally use that. But if you want to really hydrate someone's blood volume, which then leaks into their interstitial space, right? That hydration, because intracellular should be mitochondrially based mostly, right? But if you want to hydrate from that perspective, you have to be able to absorb the water into your blood volume. And that only happens best, in my opinion, when you remineralize the water. And if you really want to be really optimum with it, you do Keonton Isotonic. That stuff will almost automatically go right into like you have a headache, take a few vials of
my
this.
My first trimester was brought to you by Keonton Isotonic, because I was refusing to take any pain relievers or anything suppressive while I was pregnant. And so I just would take that big bottle of Isotonic and just like fill my mouth with it, hold for 30 seconds, swallow, and the headache would be gone within 15, 20 minutes, like every time. That stuff is amazing for headaches.
And that's because a sign of dehydration in the blood volume shrinking is a headache, right? And so, and then remember, people have to realize, right? Remember, when the blood volume shrinks to a certain point, you can get a headache, but also that turns on a backup drought management pathway in the body with histamine, right? Yep. So what I did when I transiently, when I flew to Tracy's house for that conference a few weeks ago, and I had like 4 flights over the course of literally almost just about a day, a little over a day long period of time. I knew, even though I was trying to rehydrate with the really good quality water at her place, I knew I was dehydrated because when I got home, I started having seasonal allergies, and I never do. And literally 3 days, as many Keonton Isotonic ampules as I could tolerate, and they were gone. And it's not like the pollen is gone. I mean, it's more than ever. And so that's what happens when you get dehydrated, histamine gets turned on. And so I swear by Keonton Isotonic.
Yeah, and Dr. Batmangelli's got lots of books. He's the Iranian doctor who has spent decades studying water, and he actually explains it in a very simple way. And he got lots of stuff right even before Dr. Pollock's time. So, because I think he got quite attacked because it was speculative, but he was actually right. They're just what he predicted.
He didn't have the science to back it up. He didn't have the citations.
Yeah, he was a bit like, what's his name? People like Philip K. Dick that can sort of predict the future. And then I'm not sure if he's even still alive, but then
I don't think
Dr.
he is.
Pollock came along, and now it's water science is really sort of ground, there's no disputing it.
Still,
people still dispute it and call him a quack. I'm like,
I would say, they're all getting their funding pulled, right?
Right.
I think it's why he's now doing mostly publishing books, right? Because you can publish a book without necessarily requiring massive amounts of NIH funding, and so. Yeah, it's what blows my mind are the people. There are some really prominent influencers, even, and maybe more of the carnivore space I'm thinking of in particular, who think that this idea of structured water and exclusion zone water is BS.
Oh, I know. And they call us quacks and like that. I'm like, have you seen it? Like
have you at least? I mean, literally. There are. Obviously,
the research is there. The science is there. Because I did a video and someone was like, "Well, has Dr. Emoto's work ever been scientifically proven?" I'm like, "Actually,
many times over."
Yes. It's like, okay, then
PubMed. I like,
show me one paper that tells you that eating meat all the time has got any benefits. Then, so it's very foolish if they're going to attack Gilbert Ling and water.
It's so
because
silly.
There's not a single paper. Yes, there's lots about keto, 100 years worth, but nothing about carnivores. So I think they should just be a bit, and we're not even, it's not like an enemy thing. It's just
zero.
It's like it's some water.
I hate to say it, especially doctors, because these are oftentimes doctors in this space. They don't like being presented with something they don't know about.
Exactly. And so that they don't understand.
And they potentially turn defensive or claim quack, as opposed to saying, oh, that's an interesting thing. Let me look into the data and see. And let me read a book about it. Let me make an informed opinion. Right. I mean, there's even loads of research on literally drinking structured water and improving blood glucose profiles, improving HRV. Obviously, that's a nervous system,
telomere improvement,
telomere length. Yeah,
but that could be why, because with the okra water, it's like really jelly here, and even on the Diabetes UK website, it says okra is really good for lowering blood sugar, and it would never allow that because it would get his ass kicked basically. So maybe it's because this is like superstructured. That it's the effect isn't the okra, it's the fact there's something structuring this to a greater degree than other waters. We froze it and took some photos of it, and I actually saw some we'll show you the pictures anyway.
Like using Veda's technique?
Yeah, we've been using Veda's technique. I have like 20 Petri dishes, and we've been going back to communication through vibration and sound waves.
Let's bring it back to
but my daughter, it's crazy that we're talking about this. She has a page called Alexis's Voice on Instagram, and she has written about this, about how autistics, children like her, because the word autism is, don't get me started on how people are loosely throwing it around. I'm like, you are nothing like my daughter. Please don't.
Well, I get an email.
I get insulted. I get actually insulted. So, I'm like, if you can type me an email now, you are not you don't have what my daughter has. Don't. But anyway, that's a different story. But she has said the children that are like her, I'm not even going to give it a diagnosis, that can't communicate verbally, they communicate through vibration and through sounds like the whales and the dolphins do. And I've been around these kids together, and they obviously never talk, and they don't even stay in the same room together, and they'll spell about it later. And like, that was the time of my life. I'm like, well, she wasn't even in the house. You guys one was in the yard and one was it's bizarre. But we have had her to do a couple of these like Petri dish experiments, and I've been trying to influence the water, right? So I've done some, of course, with intention, and that, I'll get like a butterfly and some interesting things. I have butterfly tattoos, and I did this like prayer blessing, and this pretty butterfly popped in. But Alexis did one, and we had her hold the dish, and we told her to think of something that she wanted, right? And we froze it, and we asked her what it was, and she said the beach. And when I did
I remember that.
Yeah. And it was this beautiful, like,
you could see waves. Yeah.
Yeah. You could see, it looked like the beach. And so when you see something like that, and then I've done a bunch with homeopathy too, which blew my mind, the homeopathy with the water, because it looked like the plant, like 3 little sugar pellets, right? That are belladonna, put in the Petri dish.
And the hibiscus made
the hibiscus tea. The hibiscus tea. I took a tea crystal and did that. So we've been playing with it, but kind of when you see something like that for yourself, and that's why I challenge people who are saying, this water structuring is BS or whatever, try it, right? I don't know. Once you see something like that with your own eyes, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of irrefutable, because there's no way that someone could just do that if it was BS. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just look at Veda's pictures, the number 4 and like the ring and the coin. But the thing is, I've just given up now. If people want to say everything's nonsense, I just think I don't care anymore, because I'm on this, there's lots of people that do want to learn. Right. And then, there's caveats with everything. I mean, I don't like bashing anybody.
No, I don't either.
I've been doing such a big, massive dive into labs and copper and pregnenolone and even adiponectin, which is like this other hormone like leptin. And I've just realized, about iron and how misunderstood it is. And poor old copper's been sort of told it's evil. And I think, again, if people want to just eat meat all the time, fine. I don't. It's just leave me alone with my water and my sun.
Yeah, I know. That's where I'm at. I'm just like all about the water. And
I know. I just got a question in my community that was like, well, how do you address the argument of, this one happened to be like eating plants versus eating them. Like, how do you address someone when they talk about the argument of this is better than this? And I'm like,
it depends.
I don't argue. No, I don't argue
either. I don't either.
I don't care. I'm not interested. I don't even. The only thing I ever see on Instagram is Sarah's post, because all I ever do is to go and I just like put content out, and
even
people
comments,
say,
right?
we should go on a channel and debate Lane Norton or so-and-so or Durian Rider. It's like, I'm not interested. I just want to get on with my life, and I don't care. And even if people say I'm wrong, or I don't want to buy this looks rubbish or whatever,
don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Yeah.
That's my clinician's theory of resonance, right? If it doesn't resonate with you, this is not your modality, at least not at this time. Interestingly, in my community, in my long-term membership community, you both would know these people, right? One woman literally healed her body of like 5 or more autoimmune diseases with her relationship with water.
The ice technique, right? From Beta.
Right.
The ice. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's called, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then another individual who I think is a lovely human being, he was like, I don't buy into this structured water BS. And the woman who healed herself with water says, then it's not your modality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good, and that's her.
Right.
That's
well,
so good.
And he said it with all due respect, right? He's a very respectful individual. And what's interesting though is now, as he's evolving, studying more stuff, he's coming around to this idea of, structured water. It just wasn't his modality. It wasn't his thing at the time. It wasn't in resonance with him. So if he had pursued it at that time, he might not have actually been able to, bridge that gap of openness and understanding. So it's like, that's the thing. I sometimes I read comments and it's like, where's all the research that supports blah, blah, blah. It's like, I go
learn
inside.
How to use PubMed.
No, I don't even. I
would tell people, just learn how to use PubMed. It's not that hard.
But also they don't know how corrupt the background of research science is, because I've worked in it, and there's so much stuff bought and paid for. I've got in everybody's.
And they might have run the test 20 times and it didn't work 19, but it worked once, and that's the one they published.
And that's exactly that. Once when I was doing heart cells, there was like the Debbie Harry of myocytes, the most beautiful myocyte I'd ever photographed. So of course that went in the publication. But it's like there's so much stuff in our drawers, or a project student will do a really important experiment, or in science you can't publish something if it's not novel. You can't repeat other people's experiments. And then, like you say, there's the more and more we learn about the bought and paid for, the more disturbing it is. For example, 100 years ago we knew how important copper was and iron's toxic, yet why is our food full of iron filings, and we've got magnetic cereal? And it's like they don't want to admit that we know the art, like Otto Warburg's work, and for example, they just want, we want the shiny new objects. So that's the thing. And also I sometimes feel like saying to people, even if I sent you the paper, you wouldn't be able to understand it anyway. But I don't say that.
I know. I've gotten to this point where I'm just like, it takes a little while to like go inside and be like, okay, it's not worth it, because you could literally, provide the most stunning evidence, and it's just not worth it.
They're committed to their idea of it being utter and complete crap. Then you're probably not going to change their mind. Yeah. Like my husband has been watching me kind of do my little water stuff. I was
going to bring up, he said, I want a magic wand.
Yeah, because I broke my Analemma wand broke, and I was like, well, I got to get a new one. And he's like, well, can you order me one too? And I was like,
I would have been really surprised.
Wait, he was serious?
He's serious. So I ordered him one because he wants an Analemma. I'm like, this is really good, because it's not so much that the wand is magic, right? It's more for me about the ritual of like saying a blessing, saying a prayer, taking the time out to be mindful and be in that moment and like worship or praise or whatever it is that I'm going to do. The wand doesn't make it possible. I can do that without it, but it just kind of adds to the whole thing. Right. And so he's seen me do this, and he's seen a lot of really wonderful things come into our life. And he's like, okay, I'm kind of like interested in doing this but it's not the wand, it's the prayer, and it's it's the intention and the energy. But I'm like, yes, okay, I would like you to. It's a vehicle for
because I do think the wand does have like the quartz crystal alone can structure.
Maybe we can talk about that. Analemma wand, BS or legit?
I think it's legit.
I think it is.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do love how rigorous Dolph and Mario are in terms of how they're trying to study.
And they have done some, like we just said, kind of science is BS, but they have done some double-blind placebo studies to show the efficacy of the wand and the water that people are drinking when touched with the wand. And I've heard a lot of very interesting anecdotal stories of healing and interesting things happening with Analemma water. So I mean,
it's only like $125. So,
right.
I mean, maybe for somebody that's a lot of money, but I just think it's not, you're not going to, if you don't like it, then it's not like buying, I don't know, a PMF bed for
20
grand
for 5 or 10 grand. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or some EMF harmonizing objects that are obviously stupid
nonsense.
Whereas the analemma one, definitely, because you can, like you say, you have a relationship with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes you, so someone asked, because I drink spring aqua. I've got a cosmic tower. I've got a lot of means in my environment that automatically really structure the water.
Yeah.
Yet I still, like I was talking to someone in my community was just like, wait, you still use things? It's like, well, yeah, I do, because it's like you said, it's the ritual. I feel like I just have a relationship with water, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is your relationship with water. That's why I'm like, maybe not everyone can do Veda's technique and see the same things. You could try something like tea leaves or homeopathy just to practice. That's what I did to try to develop it. Cause that is fascinating. Right. But my daughter right away was like able to influence it and make it look like the ocean. Like, but
back to the wand, can't you put it on your wrist, on your blood? And people have talked about structuring or imbuing information into their blood through the analemma wand.
Yeah, you physically should be able to just keep this within your biofield, and it should be able to pick up the coherent energy and then just literally influence probably even your cerebrospinal fluid.
But also people actually stuff it down, like they put it down here.
That's a good way to break it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I don't think
like this, and then they like walk around with their analemma wand like that.
I just don't think it has to be that.
I don't think you need to do that. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, I think it could be in your field. I mean, because this obviously through the quartz crystal allows all the frequencies through, right? Which is why they chose quartz. So having that in your biofield alone should be enough to inform the water inside of us. So
you know what I just realized from this conversation? Okay, your cosmic tower. We have a big cosmic tower too. When I was doing the Petri dish, I was trying to see what distilled water and tap water looked like to have them be ugly and unstructured. And I couldn't get, everything was structured. And I'm thinking, holy crap, that's because we have a cosmic tower.
Totally.
I've your tap water a few times when I've been down here, and there's
there's nothing. Please go upstairs and get the regular.
No, not in the middle of night. It's like no, it's nothing bad. It's like literally when you just need a sip, and I've just I tasted the tap water and I thought there's nothing wrong with this.
Well, this is the only time I could ever get the Petri dish to look ugly and unstructured and blank was when I set the Petri dish on top of my cell phone, which was plugged in, and I left it there for 5 minutes and then put it into the freezer, and it was blank. Most of it was blank. And then it was like, had these like ugly little claws around it. I was like, ooh,
that's a bit like, what was it, bitching in the kitchen, talking about this. It doesn't mean we're not talking about people. It's when lots of people are trying to cook at the same time.
Oh yeah,
and then everyone's in each other's way, and we can't find any spoons, and something's stuck out.
Don't come in my house in the Bermuda Triangle. And the dog, the dog, her nickname is insult to injury, because she just starts yipping when it's the most inconvenient time.
But back to the subject of telepathy, definitely with animals, because remember going through your phone and looking at all of your yoga things in your past, and there was lots of pictures of Petal. Petal was like, oh, you're talking about me.
Oh yeah,
it's me, because normally she's just gone to bed by then, but she was all past.
She was excited because we were talking about her.
Petal is a puppy, and there's Petal,
and she was
man picture.
Oh yeah.
And then she kind of knew straight away we were talking about her, and she was in these pictures, even though she's a dog. And there's definitely like a telepathy thing there.
Oh yeah.
My progression on this was, at one point in human history, everyone was telepathic, right? Everyone had those capabilities, and we're very much in that right-brained and interconnectedness. Like literally, the worst punishment you could give someone was to kick them out of the community, right? It was worse.
That's like the hex. That's why in the witch doctors, the people would be kicked out of the community and they'd go insane because they were isolated, not because he twiddled about with his the person's brain chemistry. That's
exactly it. And so then I think what happened through various reasons, we became so left-brained, right? And left brain did allow for a lot of what we're seeing now, this technological revolution stuff. But at the same time, people have completely forgotten the fact that their right brain also can be in touch with this greater field, if you will. And so, I'm hoping that the pendulum is kind of swinging back towards having that balance, because
I think people are open to it. I think they do, because they're trying all the left brain stuff and they're kind of running into a brick wall. And it's like,
totally. No, I me too. You know, that was my progression. I bet you yours too, right? It was like, what can I do with exercise, food, and supplements, right? You know, and now
biohack it all the left brain way. And then at a certain point, like I said, with the analima and the blessing and the prayer and that kind of like, I thought all my yoga stuff, I kind of rejected it for a while because I just got so fed up with just people can be really out there in the yoga community. And I just got fed up with it and just kind of discarded it during 2020 because all the studios shut down and then everybody started getting crazy in the yoga community. And I didn't want to go back to work because they were requiring forced medical interventions. And I was like, I'm done with this crap. Y'all are yoga teachers. Like, what in the hell? But now I'm kind of coming back to some of that stuff I learned in yoga and in that kind of more esoteric space, and seeing now that I see like the stuff with the water structuring techniques and just how it kind of does fit. It does have a time, it does have a place, it does fit. But it's not, you know, not the way that I thought it would, but it's interesting to me.
Yeah, I just my approach is going so much outside, less physical body, more field, right? And understanding those dynamics.
Yeah, that's a lot to do with, you know, letting go of like earthly attachments. Like there's so much I really don't care about anymore. Like lots of physical things, or you know, what car I've got, or my possessions. Like the other day, I work out, I've set up a standing desk outside and I've got my whole computer and stuff out there. And the computer's got water tipped down. James tipped water through the ceiling. I bought a bomb-proof one. Then the other day, January was walking around and she stepped on the cable and it ripped it off the bed and like crashed on the floor. And I was like, she's like, oh no, I'm sorry. Well, don't worry about it. I'll just get another one if it's broken. And I was not bothered. But it's like the whole physical attachments to obsessing about food or possessions.
Yes.
And then it was like, you know, it's being more aware of, I wonder what my energy liver or my energy thyroid's doing, and my energy, you know, and it's
your like biofield, the plasma, the aura, right?
And also like just like there's the conversations you've had here, like we were talking about the salmon roe yesterday. And I said, oh, you haven't eaten salmon roe for a while. And it's like,
don't tell the ladies that they're listening.
No, it's like, I don't spy on you. I just kind of know.
I forget my salmon roe sometimes.
Well, no, it's not. No, well, we've had all kinds of other things, but it was more the point was I just knew you hadn't. And it's like, she was probably thinking, do you walk around and spy on me? But half the time we're not even in the same room.
No,
so how could I
you just knew.
I just knew.
Yeah, she knew.
I don't eat the salmon roe because it isn't mine, and I've got all kinds of other weird seafood to eat. And then there's like other stuff where I've just known. You know, like and it's the more you get out of like the left brain and trying to analyze. Yeah, because I think, isn't it, the left brain does the text and the right brain does the context. And
that seems right.
Like Alexis and Petal, because obviously we do communicate with each other, but in a different way. But then I'm not the same level of communication as Alexis would communicate with her friends, but it's a different level to how other people would communicate with her. But I'd love to learn how to talk to her more, because what you were saying about the noises and the gestures, apparently there's this kind of glove or something that you attach to people and they do all of their noises and gestures, and AI can then translate Alexis into sort of words. So it's just, instead of her trying to communicate with us with language and letters, it's a way for her noises and body language to be interpreted. So I'm kind of,
interesting.
It's a bit like with dolphins, there's some kind of conversation going on in there. And that's where AI would be really useful. So that's an example, AI bullshit or not bullshit. It kind of depends on what you want to do. Because it would be able to, if you attach the glove to Alexis and, however it does it, learn what, because there's so many sounds and gestures she makes over and over again, especially when she's trying to tell us something. Yeah. And it's like, oh, whatever we say, don't understand, but we don't. And then she's really frustrated. There's definitely more to non-verbal communication, whether you're Alexis or not. There's lots of other non-verbal that just happens that we sort of unaware of. So it's not just about texts or emails. That's why I really don't like texting or replying to things, because it's always not what I meant.
Get lost
in translation. I'd much rather do a Zoom and talk to a client, whereas I have real trouble reading when people write a post and it's so like hard. A question. I
or like 6 questions.
Yeah, 6 questions all embedded into one with some labs in there as well, plus what they eat and stuff. And I can't answer it and I can't even read it. Whereas if somebody told me it and, you know, showed me something, I'd be able to help them a lot more. And it's like the text is so left-brained and
totally.
You know, being around people and the energy field. And sometimes that, you know, sometimes you just kind of know stuff, you know, whether someone tells you or not.
Well, have you seen, I was just talking with my community about this yesterday. Have you seen all the children who see perfectly with their eyes blindfolded?
Oh, I've heard of this.
Vortex, you know, a vortex, and it's like, but the thing is that there's
balanced brainwaves. So that's balance, left and right brain. They make brainwave harmonics of left and right brain in the different, like, you know, like alpha, theta.
Yeah,
it's basically, and so it's balanced in a pi ratio, which, like you said, it's a caduceus, right? It's like the perfect vortex that implodes right there, and it connects both sides. And then all of a sudden, they've got extrasensory perception, something like they can see while being blindfolded. And so, I mean, I feel like
it's a bit like in Thundercats, Sight Beyond Sight. Did you have Thundercats cartoon as kids?
Yeah,
I remember. I feel like I remember the
Thundercats
song. Thundercat, yeah, whatever. I remember.
I like the Smurfs, but yeah.
Oh, but with Smurfs, the problem with that is, why is there only one woman? You know, with
touche, good point. That's a really weird way to think about it.
I don't know. I think Smurfs, we had it in Welsh, and I think Smurfs, like other things like Fireman Sam, were originally a Welsh production.
Oh, my son loved Fireman Sam.
Welsh, and then it was translated to English, and then it got it's a British thing that ended up in the US.
So do they have different? So like when they do it, do they make different accents for the characters? Like, do you hear them have an American English accent like the Smurfs, or did they have like your accent?
I don't know. Well, we've got Smurfs in Welsh, so that would be. I think that's where I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was a Welsh originally.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'll have to check because I think the Smurfs that gets aired in the UK might not be quite the same as the Smurfs that ended up going over the ocean, because things get changed. Because what was that really? Let me just Queer as Folk. That we had a British version, and then you had an American Queer as Folk, and it was like the same idea and plot, but different characters and Americanized. And there was something else we were talking about the other day that traveled across the pond and changed a bit.
Interesting. Yeah, that's funny.
We digress, but
we digress from caduceus vortexes and extrasensory perception to the Smurfs.
But also, that's another thing that happens a lot. People seem to think that you can only do the lepton reset or quantum biology in a certain country.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I live in the UK, so therefore, I can't do it because the sun gets up at 4:30, but it only does that.
Okay, I need you to create a statement for this 4 a.m. sunrise.
Just to ask the sun, can it just stop it?
No, like everyone that keeps asking about it in the group, because I have an answer, and you have a different answer.
Yeah, true. But I think it's one of these things.
But I don't live somewhere where that happens.
It depends on the context, as I always say. But I find it easier to do lepton resets or healthy ways of eating in the UK than the US for some reason. Even though there's much better sun here, there's a lot more temptation. For tasting. And even if certain people want to say food doesn't matter, I think it still does.
It does.
And it's like, I think the worst food is actually the stuff that's processed because of the bad quantum information. And if, say if we bought a melon, it came from Texas, well, we've done it now. And it's like people getting all hung up about the non-seasonal local fruit. But just back to the whole, this location thing, like I was saying to Sarah before, I'm going to move to Switzerland or the Himalayas, not the equator when I'm older. People
extra UV plus, but
it's cold and it's
colder.
But then I think this idea, I can't do quantum because I'm in Boston or I'm in Chicago, Canada, flat, or I'm in Canada, or I'm in Finland. I think no matter what, you can apply lots of circadian principles. And
isn't it like the further north you are, the more magnetism?
Oh yeah, there's more magnetism.
And the water is naturally lower in deuterium.
Yeah. It's all quote unquote quantized, right? As long as you understand that and you take advantage of what your latitude has to offer at a given time of year, you can do it, right? Yeah. Like, I'm never going to cold plunge in January. I know you do, Sarah. I just literally go outside with barefoot with no clothes. Well, not no clothes.
I'm in the 33rd latitude. So it's like some days it'll be in this like 70s in January, randomly, often.
Michigan's really cold.
Yeah.
Really, and we're right. I'm 40 minutes from Lake Huron. Lots of snow.
Oh yeah, so you've got full on like cold thermogenesis.
Full on. If I want to lay in the snow, I can get cold.
Yes, it never even snows here at all. Like not even It hasn't snowed here in like probably 3 years, which is weird because it used to snow every year. And then when I was younger,
and then the schools would shut down after like 1 inch of snow.
Oh yeah, like a couple of flakes, fall.
Oh, we had a big storm in 2012 that literally went national because it was such a disaster. Like there were cars parked on the highway. People got stranded because of an ice storm and no one could move.
Wow.
Children slept over at school. I mean, it was really bad. It started at like 11 a.m. and we were just like, whatever, we're in Georgia. It's not a big deal. So everyone just like stayed at school, stayed at work. The whole city was like shut. People slept in their offices. Children had to sleep in their schools. Cars were abandoned all over the highway and hotels were full. I mean, it was crazy.
Wow.
Because of an ice storm, and everyone was like making fun of the city because it's like, it's kind of
you just haven't experienced it. So how do you have the resources?
That was a bit like 2 years ago when it was over 40 degrees C, which is like over 100 and whatever in the UK. And there was mass panic because we had 3 days and we had news warning and don't get stuck in your car and whatever, and don't go outside, basically because it never hadn't. That's like Las Vegas kind of temperature.
Yeah.
So it's the same. If you have an ice storm, it's kind of completely out of the ordinary and people get very excited.
It's just we don't have the equipment to clean the roads and make it safe to drive in. It's just pretty dangerous.
Well, ice is dangerous. Ice storms would be dangerous where I live, and we're used to lots of snow. So yeah. So going back to the whole like where you live, like you make the most of it. Just this is how I reframed things. I say this phrase in my head because if I want to apply something and it's just I can't, it's like I just have resistance to it or something, or I think I make excuses. I say my circadian rhythm is not a priority for me, and that's like it's like that's what you say for people. It's like, okay, you don't want to go outside in the morning, you don't want to block the artificial light. Yes, it might be darker earlier, but like there's ways to help still support rhythm wherever you are. Mm-hmm. So you have to just basically say to yourself, my circadian rhythm is not important to me. And like, if that's a true statement, then fine, then forget about all this. But if that doesn't resonate with you, then find a way to make it work to the best of your ability. That's what, it's same thing with exercise, with the food you eat, just, eat like, being fit is not a priority for me. Okay, fine. If that's not a priority for you, then don't worry about exercise. Don't worry about movement. So it's like just reframing it with that idea of like what I want to prioritize for my health. And if it doesn't, if it resonates, if that's like, whoa, wait, no, being fit and healthy is important for me. So I want to make sure I do things throughout my week that, help me go in that direction. And
I think it loops back to what you said last time, that when somebody's on a journey, maybe right now being fit and playing a sport isn't important, but later, once they are a bit more out of pain, their hormones are better, they might think, oh, actually, I do want to now. It's just at that particular moment in time, it's just too much.
Yeah. Sure.
And I always think I'll never totally dismiss anything. I'll never, ever, ever, because how do I know? Maybe in 10 years or 5 years, I might change my mind. So it's
okay. So question maybe to end this, what are things that you've changed your mind on that you thought originally were BS?
Well, that's a good one. Sarah can go first.
Oh gosh, I don't even know, because it's not even that good, because it's just like obvious. I used to think, number one, I used to think all the people talking about blue light were idiots, because when I was doing the carnivore diet and I had my whole carnivore page, like people would message me and be like, oh, blue light. And I'm like, oh, that's so dumb, And now I'm like, oh, wait a minute, not so dumb. And then also blue blockers, I thought they were complete and utter nonsense and stupid, and people just look like idiots. And now if the sun's down and I don't have my blue blockers, I'll literally feel sick. Like I'm like, I just got to get my,
Yeah, you actually really hit your best. You're the best of all with the blue blockers.
Oh, because I feel terrible without them.
I'm so messy, I can't find mine half the time. And then there's
I have like 4 pairs around the house, so I can just like find.
Yeah, I've got 4 pairs, but I still can. Yeah, anyway. But yeah, that's the thing. I know what you mean about the blue blockers, but carry on. I'm just thinking of something.
No, I mean, I used to think the sunrise, I used to think all of the circadian stuff was BS, and grounding was BS, and, going outside, all these stupid hippies, like whatever. And then I got to this point where like all the left brain stuff, the supplements and the working out and getting 10,000
lab testing,
diet, strict diet. And I just all like blew up in my face. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to look at the woo-woo hippie crap, and it turned out to work.
You must have believed in it a bit because you were a yoga teacher.
I still thought I was like a cynical yoga teacher. Like
Yeah. Yoga for fitness, right? There's yoga for fitness versus the yoga mindset, more so.
And
right?
I would dip into the yoga mindset, but I kind of just, I had a weird thing with all of it. Like I definitely had a weird thing with it. I loved it. I loved learning about the Vedas. I loved doing advanced study. I went to Bali for 10 days. I loved all of it. But there was a part of me that I just couldn't quite integrate it, that if I was going to practice yoga, I needed to be in a sweaty puddle on the floor, like feeling like I just got my butt kicked, or I would actually be physically angry. Like, I'd be like, well, I just wasted an hour of my life, and then I would have those students and be like, wait a second, maybe there's some nervous system dysregulation happening.
Right. Or a need for an endorphin burst for something. Yeah.
Exactly.
I am my BS that I am happy I've done a big deeper dive into is the concept of harmonizing waves and EMFs, right? I used to call complete bullshit on that because I was like, how, and that, but I don't think that up. And I don't think that every EMF harmonizer that's being advertised is legit. So I'm going to put that out there.
A lot of trash.
But that being said, just knowing what I know about even how our own emotions can harmonize our environments and can literally physically condition our space. That's Bill Tiller. I don't know if you guys know Bill Tiller, Dr. William Tiller. He researched a ton on consciousness and intention and subtle energy. And literally you can condition your physical space with your intention alone. He used a specific device imprinted with a set intention to do it and to measure it. But like all those things I used to call BS on. And now I just think so much more highly of the fact that there is the ability to harmonize a space in multiple ways to make the energy, in spite of that cell phone tower, maybe that's a mile away, in spite of that, for allowing my body to receive a better energy, as opposed to just being fearful of that tower that's, that I can see outside my window.
Doesn't that loop back to the sliders, the people who can change electricity, but also isn't the lesser banishing of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram the most oldest and classic way of clearing an energy space that people still do today? So I think that's the same as you, that like, I think I didn't understand how much the mind is not in the body and how much we can remote view or project, or and it's not going to happen overnight, but all this idea about being able to mentally clear a space around you, or if you want to go somewhere, not to be invisible per se, but not to be disturbed. Like here, I want to be invisible because it potentially is dangerous, and I like going off by myself, so I want to be invisible. But it's like, it's these kind of things that people might perceive as sorcery or magic, whereas they do exist, but not in the way in which not evil. But also, it's not like all of a sudden you can't see me. It's the fact that we how we filter everything, and all of what we see, only it's about 2% of what actually is happening in reality. That maybe I might walk past a potential mugger, and for that moment in time, he's too interested in his phone because a really funny cat video just arrived, and that kind of stuff is, But the thing is, back to, I've always been open to stuff. I've just not known. Like sometimes I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me earlier about grounding? Or why didn't somebody just tell me earlier about the sunrise? And I would have done it when I was 20. So I've never poo-pooed anything. I'm like more, oh, good, I'll start doing that now.
I think everything is divine timing in a way. Like, because if I would have found certain works, like, for example, I've been fascinated by Edgar Cayce and Dolores Cannon. And
I love, yes.
Right. Like, but like, if I would have found them 5 years ago, it wouldn't have resonated in the same way. And so I just feel like I feel like when I kind of look back on my timeline, like you too, right? It's like you get into certain things and it leads you to others. I just feel like my timeline, it makes perfect sense now when I look at kind of what my interests were and how they've progressed.
One thing I did think was stupid was UFOs and aliens, and I think exactly as you said, if I'd have read Dolores Cannon 20 years ago, I would have just been, this is just stupid. Whereas I probably read or listened to all of them, and it's almost like a story.
It's fascinating. It's open-minded stuff, like, and unfortunately there's like
Jesus and the Essene one is one of my favorites. But there's so many completely bonkers ones. It's like,
well, I don't even think they're bonkers. I just think they're fascinating. Yeah. All of them. And I just want people to read these things with like you said, with an open mind, and you don't have to agree with us.
Right.
But like, be open to learning and experiencing something new.
That's what I like what we said earlier. People are like, oh, that's rubbish. That's like BS. I'm like, well, then don't buy it. Then don't do it. Then don't entertain it. Like,
exactly.
You know,
just carry on drinking tap water and Coke. Then I'm fine.
That's
with
fine.
that.
It doesn't affect me.
It doesn't affect me. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, it's always back to just try it, because that's all life is really. Is just all I want is to have experiences now, because I've got a limited amount of time left. So, you know, owning a car is not fun for me. Maybe the experience of buying it the first time, or the experience of taking a friend out. But other than that, the thing doesn't matter. I'm more looking for experiences and, you know, anything, you know, it's hard to explain, but, you know, experiences.
Totally.
Yeah, watching James throw butternut squashes down.
Oh yeah, James rolling. Yeah, James rolling butternut squashes.
My son loves produce. He likes to roll produce down the driveway.
And, you know, I bought a giant watermelon. It was like so heavy, even I was sweating moving it. I was like, Matt, I just want the biggest, fattest watermelon. You know, and then like I did an exercise gym using it, and then I knew what would happen with James. He'd roll it down the hill. But there's a video of him first meeting the giant melon, because Matt was like, oh no, be careful, he might pull a muscle picking it up. But he goes up to it and starts playing on a drum, and I wasn't expecting that, but he did say ball. Yeah, it was my ball. And then he tries to pick it up, and he goes, then he did actually fart. I've got a whole video of all of this, by the way. And I was waiting for ages to meet James and meeting the melon, and then we took it all the way up the hill
and let it roll down.
But then
that's what we do in the afternoon. We roll produce down the hill.
But also, it's like
during the Bermuda Triangle time, right?
Yeah, but then with the melon, then like I brought it in and I cut it up in the kitchen, and it made lots of mess, of course, and then it filled the skin filled the trash. So I've frozen it now, but I'm going to make some kind of smoothie, like a sorbet thing out of the frozen melon.
Yeah,
so we don't waste all this stuff, because the spaghetti squash unfortunately only survived 3 rolls. I quite like spaghetti squash.
That's surprising, because you have to hack that thing to open it. I mean, spaghetti squash are strong.
Just if you just roll it down your driveway.
Yeah, but roll it down. The melon didn't explode. And also James loves like grapefruits. But he rolls them down the hill. Like he had this one of mine that it must have been like his had 100 runs. And when I opened it, it was all completely intact.
Oh, interesting.
So we don't waste all this food. No. It's just really funny, because he does the same thing every time.
But do you want to know when I used to own a gym, and my kids didn't, they never took a bottle. So they would come, and they'd come to work with me, and I would be breastfeeding them, and I breastfed them each until they were like 2, 2.5, 3. Right. And, so they were obviously walking and moving and stuff. My favorite thing was watching kids biomechanics and how they squatted down and picked stuff up. He was doing
like Turkish get-ups.
Oh yeah, and also he sits in the perfect squat, and then sometimes, you know, like how the strong men move those massive stones.
Oh yeah, he does.
That's how he picks up stuff. And then he sometimes does an overhead press, but it's like a perfect clean. He's like, all the angles are perfect.
Yeah, I know. It's exactly. I would look at my daughter and be like, that's the best squat I've ever seen. Right there, like the spine.
It's perfect, and he's folded, and then he'll just pick up the melon using his legs, not his back.
Yeah, I know.
Even the spaghetti squash will be heavy for him.
Oh yeah.
Because when I was moving the melon, I thought, this is how James feels trying to lug around the
squash.
Any other BS versus? I mean, I'm certain
we'll have to do a whole other episode. Yeah. Maybe we should open it up to the comments and our groups and our floor and our
what they want us to talk about,
and we'll stick to it. Because
deal. Comments,
because we were just all over the place in this episode. I don't even know what we're going to title this. Like last week, I was like, I don't know what to call this one. We just
potpourri. Isn't that the category in Jeopardy? Like where it could be anything. Potpourri. It is. I mean, it is. I watched enough Jeopardy to know that that's the category.
It's an eclectic mix of. That just means a random. Well, like I don't know. There's lots of words to describe something.
Yeah.
We could maybe next
another chat with Dr. Sarah.
Right.
I've managed to not. I keep the smut and the rudeness and stuff out of the conversation.
Go watch The Jinx second season. Second episode. Very bizarre. That's what I wasted my 1 hour of TV watching.
You found it interesting.
I did. I maybe do that twice a week, if that, maybe once a week, but
no judgment.
I'll have a
did
show
it every
and
day,
I'm like,
Sarah. No judgment.
Well, it messes up my sleep. Like I did it last night until 9:00 and I was up like 3 times in the night. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know what this is.
But do you play around with this? I hack every TV screen I've ever been around. I hack it by like finding the mode, right? And then like
my husband would like lose his mind.
No joke. Like you can literally change the backlight to lower the brightness massively. And so like I put ours on, I think movie mode is like the dimmest, and then lower the backlight and then increase the red. Even with the glasses on, it makes a huge difference in terms of how at least to me, how stimulating it is.
My husband would be so mad if I did that.
Yeah, I just listen to the TV with like, I do the hydrogen and I put things over my head and I have.
Yeah, she does like cover her head.
Listen. Yeah. That's how I know the lyrics of the thing that was being.
Your ears are very sensitive.
But whatever. Yeah.
Well, I love that idea of like in our communities and then in the comments to like, we'll do another one of these like fact or BS, if you will, next time. Yeah. So load us up and we'll stay on topic.
We'll try. We'll do our best. No promises. We can't promise anything. We might start talking about cowboy songs, but
aliens and UFOs, but that's whatever.
All right. Well, another fun Quantum Conversations episode. Thank you everyone for watching.